Good morning, everybody. There we were, failing at technology as we we're just about to talk about it, which is a great start. Welcome. Today we're going to talk about online safety, which is a huge topic in the world today. Okay. At the end, there'll be an opportunity for questions. I've already got some of your questions. And today what I've done is really tailor this around some of the questions and also some of the misconceptions that I could see coming through. I think for us to be able to support and care for our children in this ever-changing world, which is online safety, we need to be educated and aware ourselves, okay? So we're going to go through some of the logic, some of the studies, some of the ideas behind it. Then we'll talk about what you can do to support as parents and any questions at the end that we may have as well. Does that sound okay for everybody? Good, okay, perfect. So first of all, bit of discussion, okay? Discuss these statements and see if you agree with them. Thank you for discussing. You tried to discuss. Discuss.
Wait.
Don't think I need it.
You sound very familiar.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Gold star.
Thank you.
Dojo point. Okay. Everybody agree with those statements? That's something that you witness yourselves. Okay. So yeah, I mean, not many of us have radios anymore, but so did you know that we were talking about the radio? Those were statements from the 1930s on the damages of radio for children. So it all sounds very, very similar because it's everything we're saying right now about the internet, about social media, but this is actually what people were talking about when they were discussing the impacts, the negative impacts of the radio in the home. So this is one that sums it up from the Washington Post in 1931. The radio seems to find parents more helpless than it did the funnies, which are cartoons in papers, the automobile, the movies, and other earlier invaders to our home because it cannot be locked out or the children locked in. Interesting. So this is an example of something that's cropped up time and time again. So we've got TV. I think we were probably, well, I'm 36. When I was growing up, it was TV. It was how much time TV's rotting your brain, your eyes will turn square. You don't hear those types of things anymore. So it's interesting why that's all of a sudden a fine thing, and screen time, devices, iPads, social media is another thing. Then came the internet. You used to get free CDs from AOL, which gave you like an hour, and then you'd have to make sure that your mom wasn't on the phone. And that was the next thing that was the big problem, because then people were saying, well, the internet itself is terrible, but really there was not a lot you could do on it back then. Then, obviously, video games was kind of intersecting both of those things, okay? The games that I was playing back when I was young were of huge disgust to parents, things like Sonic the Hedgehog, things like Mario Brothers, which now parents would probably say, please play Sonic the Hedgehog, please play Mario Brothers, don't play Call of Duty. So again, we're just in this interesting time where we do have to take a step back and realize this is just something that we're going through in the world at the moment. You know, at the moment, there's VR technologies that are taking on a whole different platform, a whole different life form. It's going to become more integrated into our society. And there are positives and negatives to that. I was listening to something yesterday with loads of positives on VR. People who have got eating disorders, people who suffer from anxiety, can put themselves in situations that are not possible to do in the real world without putting that person in risk. So they can experience things. So again, even when we go into the next stage, which is looking like it could be VR or the metaverse, you know, there are positives and negatives to these things. So we have to be measured in its approach. Okay, so let's see what the studies show on this. Okay, so this is Oxford University. By the way, there's not a lot. That's the first thing I'll say. There are not a lot of studies on this. If you actually sit down and think, right, I'm going to find a real good study to prove X, Y, Z. I can see, I was just speaking to this gentleman here, you know, we can see that there is a relationship that these children have with devices. We can see, you know, how they feel when they can't access them. So we're not belittling that. However, terms like addiction, terms like, it affects their sleep, it affects their life. It's all in moderation, okay? So basically, the two big studies that are recent, okay, this was one. When I say this is a big study, again, it's a parent questionnaire. Okay, so what are we actually getting from that? It's very subjective. Okay, so screen time does not significantly disrupt sleep, so that's a positive for the tablets. Okay, this one, health impacts of screen time. One of our big concerns around excessive screen time is how it can affect young people's moods. Research from Royal College of Paediatricians on 109 children. So you're basing a study on 109 children. That's not relevant at all. You could dismiss it. But also, they asked them questions. They asked them, does social media or screen time affect you? Does it make you feel worse? Okay, again, it's not really relevant. So we're in this world now where we can see that possibly not everything that is our perception or our reality is actually the case. And that what our children are actually going through is possibly more complex than that. Okay, addiction. Is addiction a real thing? This is a very sort of tabloid headline. Think of screens something to handle in moderation like food rather than something without a healthy place in our lives like heroin, experts say, which is quite an extreme example. But it is worth noting because things like addiction are used quite often. Okay, how would you do a study like that? You can't. You can't ethically get a group of children and put them in a situation where you could check if they were addicted to something. Okay, and also you'd have to give the test group something else, which is totally immoral. But also, when on the sort of note of addiction is quite often dopamine gets brought up as a big selling point. Well, they get a dopamine hit from a like. We get a dopamine hit from seeing a cat picture on Instagram or whatever it might be. But again, you can't measure that. Okay, the only way you can measure dopamine hits successfully is if it changes your physiological makeup, such as eating. So there is nothing you can do to test that. So again, I'm sure there is a dopamine hit. There's a dopamine hit from me speaking to you. Believe it or not, it might not feel like it right now. There's a dopamine hit from me speaking. Okay, so it's not really that relevant. Okay, so again, I'm not belittling the situation, but there's a lot of miscommunication out there and a lot of misunderstanding that can help us understand how we can deal with our children a lot better. Okay, so this is all part really of moral panic, which has come up time and time again, which we've talked about some of this. We've talked about it with TVs, with computers, with whatever. It started in 1972 with Stan Cohen, the idea of this. There was a study of mods and rockers, which if you don't know, are two distinct groups in the UK music scene. And the government and the government and the newspapers blew this up as a huge thing that could be, divisive to our children, divisive to our culture. You don't hear about it anymore, okay? So again, it's making sure that we are keeping this real. So the reality of the situation is that these things that we're about to talk about have always been prevalent. Bullying has always been prevalent. Body consciousness has always been something that people are exposed to and some people really struggle with. Negative images, opinions in a void, grooming, false realities, but the biggest difference is we're letting in the outside influences, which are people's same concerns with radio, okay? We managed it with radio, I'm sure we can manage it today, okay? So this is the reality of the situation. It's not at all undermining it or anything like that, but it is making sure that we are educated, that we know the reality of this situation, and we can tackle each of these different realities together. Okay, so let's start with social media. Discussion, this time we're going to talk, okay? What do we see with social media, and what do these two pictures mean to you when we're talking about social media? Yeah.
Let alone thinking that our kids are going to be exposed to such images, and how can we, if we don't know how to allow it, and if it happens, how do we deal with it afterwards?
Absolutely, absolutely. Anybody else?
It's a virtual world.
It's a virtual world.
Not so you.
Can you elaborate on that?
I mean, not necessarily it's the real world, so there's less physical contact with humans, so it's more virtual, so people are getting used to just connecting through
Okay.
It's an image, so it's
I mean, even this is interesting because neither of these were things that I put these two pictures up for, but they're both right. And so you can see how things can get misinterpreted online as well. Any other ideas or
addiction. Another.
addiction? Okay.
There's many faces to social media, like the picture on the right.
Many faces of social media. Okay, that's what I'm getting at there with that one. It's from a film, I think it's called Split. It's a very good film. The driver seems to have less sort of Patience. Okay, good. Again, not what I was going for, but these are all good answers. It's all subjective. Okay, so what I was looking at here is kind of what our children are exposed to on social media. I've just said that all of this stuff is stuff that we've all coped with and we're all aware of. But there's a lot of, again, when I say studies, they're all such small pools, so please take them in moderation. However, on how people act on social media, and this is what our children are being exposed to. Okay, so when I looked at the split picture, it made me think of the different personalities that people take up even on different platforms. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a minute, but even on my own social media feeds, if I'm on one app, Instagram, for example, and Facebook, because I'm old, and those are the two that old people use, they're very different. Okay, one I don't like at all anymore, one I do like. It's quite a nice place, but the other one is quite horrible. We'll talk about that in a minute. Over here is a real situation that we all experience every day, I'm sure, but is linked to how we are in the online world. So, if you were about to walk in front of me in the real world, in this room right now, and we were about to bump into each other, what would I do? I'm so sorry. Okay, even if you did it, okay, even if you were the one, I'm going to trip Mr. Williams up, and you came up to me, I'm so sorry, my apologies. Put me in a car, what are you doing? You're not very happy with me, yeah? You might beep your horn, you might flash your lights, you might do worse, I don't know, okay? But we've all been in those situations, those experiences. What is the unique factor about that? Why would we act differently?
Because you're not interacting face-to-face?
Because you're not interacting face-to-face? Yeah?
Human factor, because we all think and act differently depending on where we come from.
Yeah. But why would we act differently when we're face-to-face than when we're in a car, do you think?
Car gives us the illusion of our power and
It's more powerful when we're in.
That's interesting. That is really interesting. Yeah.
And the more place we have around us, the more this will be.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Again, not what I was getting at, but this is good because, again, maybe people on social media feel they've got more power as well.
It was a joke about a man in a car and in the head.
Yeah.
It's like a double.
So you've got that anonymity, haven't you, as well? Okay, people don't know. You could give me road rage on the way to work. I could get here, and then 2 minutes later, me and you could be face to face going, hey, how are you? Do you have a nice time? Yeah. So we don't know, or you could even tell me about my terrible driving, and I'd go, oh, that guy sounds terrible. But, we wouldn't know that that's the reality. So we feel safe. We feel that we can do what we want in some respects. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Cut up by a red Jeep.
Yeah.
Not by.
Is Red Jeep in here? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So we've got that anonymity. We've got that sort of, we can be whoever we want. And that's the world that is very dangerous for our children on social media. Again, none of this is all bad, okay? So let's not just target it and blanket. We're never going to keep social media out of our children's lives, okay? Some of you have got very young children in here. You've got a little bit more time. But the older they get, they are going to be on social media. I'll tell you something. I mean, I've only just become a dad myself, 9-month-old, so I've got a few years, I think. But when I was very young, I did a talk on education and computing and online, as we used to call it, computing. And I didn't have kids, obviously, at that time. And I knew everything about what to do in school. But I was asked at this panel, when would you let your child have a device? At that point, there was no devices in schools or anything like this. I said, probably like 11 years old. People burst out laughing. Okay, now I get it, but at the time I was like, no, I'm right, because they've all got age restrictions on. This is in line with proper guidance. In fact, I'm being a little bit lax by saying 11, but the reality is we're not going to do this. So we need to be aware that our children are exposed to things like this. So when we're looking at different apps, do we all know these apps? There's probably even newer apps. No, we don't know all these apps. Okay, so let me introduce you to these apps, okay, and tell you what they're like, okay? So this is TikTok, okay? This is probably very prevalent in school at the moment in secondary, okay? This is where children upload videos of them dancing, but now also cooking anything, okay? But it's very short burst videos, and it's not a terrible place to be, okay? It's quite a moderately supportive community, okay? This is a bird called Twitter, who is basically a huge troll, okay? So we all know that term troll, okay? So basically, Twitter is not a very, in a lot of people's opinions, pleasant place, okay? Again, there are things you can do to make your Twitter, if you are having a horrible Twitter, a nice Twitter. You can mass block people. You can decide what is shown on your feed, what is not shown on your feed. So again, all of these things are generalizations, but Twitter can be quite a nasty place where someone puts a comment up like, are you having a nice day today? And then they get followed by loads of abuse for no reason at all that I can tell. Instagram is my favorite. I have a very nice Instagram. It's a nice place to go if you want to ever visit. You know, music, sports, film. I can control very much what it is. I don't let a lot of people follow me, so I don't have a huge community of people uploading cats and stuff. So, you know, but even if they are, cats are nice. So that's quite a nice place to be. Twitch, I'm very interested in Twitch. I'm not a video game person myself. But what I understand from an artistic perspective, especially during the lockdown, it was a really supportive place, and especially a lot of young people were able to do a lot of creative things, and they were supported in a community. Facebook, there's a joke really that's where your auntie's told not to get the vaccine, but that's kind of what it is. My mom's on Facebook, is the way I see it, okay? My mom's on Facebook. I have an account. When I go on it, I see it's full of misinformation. There's a lot of posts about, for example, I'm a huge baseball fan, which is quite niche for a UK person. And there was an article put up about Aaron Judge, who's a New York Yankee, absolute incredible star and a great role model. And so this came up on my feed, again, knowing what I'm looking at, whatever. Click on it, and it was disgusting, the stuff that was in there. And so Facebook seems to just be full of quite a lot of misinformation. And then there's Reddit, which you can find your community, you can find supportive groups, but you can also find quite a lot of nastiness on there. But again, it's all in moderation. It's all up to you and how you manage that situation. But I did just bring up an important point for your children, okay? So I am a British baseball fan. That's not all I am, but that is one of the things that I do. So when I was young, I found a team to play with in the UK. I found people who like baseball, and I was able to talk to them. Now, back in 2001, 2002, that just was not possible. You know, it was quite new. It was quite an amazing thing, because I would have never played. I would have never found people who I could talk to or anything like that. So this is a way of your children finding their tribe, so to speak, okay? Things they're interested in. So that is a huge positive for social media, but it's about how we monitor it, how we make sure that our children are not being exposed to different things. And there's loads of stuff you can do on that. Okay, this is kind of like the Facebook analogy, okay? The old man yells at the clouds, because that's a big problem in social media. So I've just said, I think I'm quite a nice person. I don't have any sort of horrible interests. So my Instagram is full of full of people who or suggested posts that feel the same way as me. So then what happens? I think I'm right. I think everybody thinks this way. Okay, so I've got this incredible opinion, and everybody believes me. Everyone thinks this is right. So that can be a really dangerous thing. Okay, We'll move on slightly, but still kind of on social media. So what do you feel when you see this picture? Anybody?
Happy guy going on holiday.
Happy guy going on holiday. He does look very happy. And yeah, anybody else? What did you say? Fake. Who said fake? 10 points. 10 points to you. It is, of course, a man with a toilet and a computer screen behind him. Okay, so this is another thing that's really affecting our children. That is the Instagram versus reality culture kind of thing. And it can also have big issues with body consciousness the older children get. The pictures that they are receiving of what somebody should look like, often very unrealistic. I've been trying for years. But, you know, very unrealistic. And it's not okay that our children think that this is the only way to look or be or whatever. So that is something. The other thing that can quite often happen, you see quite a lot in the UK, a lot of young people sort of getting in debt and getting into really bad financial situations because they see pictures like this gentleman on the left and think that is an attainable life, that is something that I can achieve. You know, this person's, you know, living the life, going here, there and everywhere, when in reality, it probably isn't that case at all, and it's not attainable or realistic. So we have to be really careful what our children are exposed to. But in a minute we'll talk about really the crux of this whole thing is that we talk about it, that they are going to see this stuff. There is going to be exposure to it. So it's talking and learning how to talk to our children about it and make sure that they feel comfortable in that. Okay, so in a minute we are going to, if anybody feels sensitive about this, or we are going to talk about something that was a horrible incident that occurred in the UK. So if anybody does feel uncomfortable at all, then please feel free to leave at any time. Before we talk about online bullying, I would like to go over any red flags that could occur. But this is for bullying. Really, this is the same as for bullying, apart from deleting social media account, though you would expect to see that as well with an older child who's being bullied. So visible physical changes, sudden loss of interest in doing anything, nervousness, mood changes and snappy, pretending to be sick to avoid school, delete social media profile, and a normal social withdrawal, so making sure they're not in any groups. But don't assume anything. So I'm talking more about when I was in the UK here in very early days so I left in 2014. But Twitter was what the kids were using then, which seems a long time ago now. But quite often, you know, we would come across children who you would never suspect to be bullied or to be being bullied or to be the bully, okay? And there's always, when you're talking about children, there's always a reason for this stuff. No one's bad. No one's doing anything maliciously. I'm talking about primary school kids here as well, in year 5 and 6 in the UK. So there's always a reason. Quite often children who were quite vulnerable or were being bullied physically themselves were the ones doing cyberbullying quite a lot, but then that can play into a nasty stereotype as well. So that's just from my experience. And then also, quite often, the person being bullied was quite often someone who you'd think, well, in school, I'm pretty sure you did this X, Y, Z. So it's quite interesting. Don't assume anything. Of course.
The bottom bit there
Yeah.
specifically mentions teenagers.
Yeah.
Do you see a sort of a normal distribution of this? As they'll start looking as sort of primary school, and then sort of 13, 14 is the peak, and then by 18 they're sort of like, yeah, whatever. Is this across every
Well, put yourself back in school. Exactly the same, isn't it? So when you're in school, you know, primary school, everyone's friends, everybody loves each other, you know, I'm being bullied means I'm not being played with, okay, or whatever, and these things can mean totally different things by the time you get to secondary school. In secondary school, it's all about being ahead of the pack, isn't it? And I mean, again, what I'm going to show you in a minute is really horrible stuff in the UK where you can see that mentality where like, this guy's not cool, I'm going to show how cool I am, so let's gang up. And again, unfortunately, I'd have seen that when I was growing up as well in the UK. And then by the time you get to, I went to college when I was 16, and all of a sudden, like, nobody did any of this anymore. And if you did, people would be like, what are you doing? So yeah, I think it's just exactly the same as real life. Now, of course, then you've got the troll situation, which is different, and people do that for a multitude of reasons. Quite often, you know, when they track down these trolls, you know, there was somebody who was famously tracked down, after they were trolling the families of servicemen who had lost their lives. And they tracked him down. He was just a banker from London. He was like, oh, I'm really sorry. It's gamification. They're doing it to play a game, and it's just obviously horrendous. But they don't see anything wrong with it. Oh, no, that was online. That was different. It's like those different personalities we're looking at. So trolling is different to bullying, and you have to kind of make that distinction. But yeah, online bullying takes the same arc as normal bullying. Again, all of this stuff is prevalent in real life. It's just exacerbated at times by the online presence. So unfortunately, not unfortunately, but unfortunately what happened. This is Ollie Stevens, who was an autistic boy in the UK who got, well, I'm going to use UK slang here, but this is what they're talking about. So it's called getting patterned, and that is where people decide that they are going to target somebody, and they just are relentless. But again, this then went into the real world, which is where it got very, very disgusting. And unfortunately, he lost his life. He was lured to a field thinking he was going to meet a girl. This girl didn't know Ollie, didn't know the boys who did it. So again, you've got this online personality, this online culture. She's like sending videos. The voice notes are, I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm going to lure Ollie to the field. And then these boys who didn't know, again, he knew them. He'd snitched on them, okay, because they were being horrible about another boy. So they knew Ollie, they lured him out, and then that's when they attacked him, unfortunately. Now, before I show the video, how this can happen, the BBC did something amazing. Now, I can't get it up on the screen here because I'm not technologically advanced to do it. But if you, I'll send you the link if you want. It's called, the article's, you find it quite easy to be honest. The article's called Ollie's Story on the BBC. And if you scroll halfway down, there's a panorama video that comes up, which we're going to watch a small segment of. If you scroll halfway down, they have done some incredible stalking, really. They set up an account as a 13-year-old boy, not to catfish anyone or anything like that, but they did it to see what content they would be exposed to. This is a specifically UK problem. So what I'm about to say is knife crime. Okay, so if you're in America, I'm pretty sure it would be guns. In other places, it would be drugs, whatever it might be. Okay, that's me being a perception there. But knife crime is a huge problem in the UK at the moment. So they followed footballers, they followed popular musicians, Burna Boy, Travis Scott were a couple of them, drill music stars, cars, and then anti-knife crime pages and tributes to Ollie. And what they received were numerous requests to buy knives, numerous requests to watch videos that depicted knife crime. And when they reported it to the different outlets, it pretty much does stand up to my perception of those accounts. So Twitter didn't block anything. Okay, you know, there is a theory that they enjoyed the chaos of it. Okay, so they didn't block anything. TikTok and Instagram did. Instagram were less forthcoming than TikTok, but they did, and Facebook just left it up there. And so you can understand how this sort of misinformation can lead to incredibly serious things.
Face the entire day.
This is his friends talking.
Ollie's friends told me about what it's like growing up in a world where so much is posted online.
I'm just think when you say stuff, like I'm just like, oh, could someone take this wrong, or like, could someone, take this in the wrong way, even if it's like not even a hurtful thing, you just don't know how people are going to take it.
If like there's people in beef or whatever, like they'll kind of video them, like it could be like with a weapon or something, and just kind of like making them do stuff that's going to embarrass them. And sometimes it can get quite violent.
This type of behaviour is called patterning, and it's at the heart of what happened to Ollie. Ollie was part of group chats on the social media platform Snapchat. In the days before his murder, a video was posted to one group showing a younger boy being patterned. What is patterning?
For want of a better word, humiliation. of a young person by other young people, where that humiliation is then captured on social media, often by video or by images, and then it's shared on a wider basis.
One boy in the Snapchat group had shared the patterning video. Another had added a series of laughing emojis. When Ollie saw all this, his reaction was to alert the victim's older brother, angering the two boys in the group.
Motive for the disagreement is believed that was Ollie snitching, grassing on them, and that was what led to the fallout, essentially, between them.
Okay, so just now, I don't want to cause another moral panic and everybody worry about patterning, okay? But it's just this is a very extreme case, but it just shows how it can happen, and how if we're not talking to our children, if we're not monitoring devices and seeing what they're seeing, then it can lead to a very difficult thing. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on gaming at all, because there's zero research to suggest that I should, okay? It's all about moderation, again. It's all about making sure that you stick to your boundaries. So what do you expect for your child? How many hours do you want them to be on their devices? How many hours do you want them to be on their game? And stick to it. Again, screen time we'll talk about, but there's no research. America says 2 hours max. UK doesn't have any opinion, apparently. So you have to work with your child and know your expectations as a household. I'm going to introduce you to National Online Safety at the end of this session, and they are brilliant because the only danger with gaming is, again, the social aspect. So this is Among Us, which is, I'm sure a lot of you know already. I didn't when it first cropped up, and then we found out, using National Online Safety, all the issues that can happen. So inappropriate chats, risk of hacking, use of external apps. So we can see that that it's a danger and that it's something that we need to be aware of. Okay, so
is that a website?
it is. I'll talk you through it at the end. So you've all got access. You always have had access, okay? But it might seem like something we're putting out there on social media, you know, sign up, and you wonder what it is. So I'll talk you through what it is. When you're looking at Call of Duty, I know some of you are thinking, you know, but it creates violence. There's no research to suggest so, and quite interestingly, a lot of the anecdotal research can be quite subjective. So, for example, if you have famously, unfortunately, school shootings are quite often linked to video games. We all remember Columbine when I was younger. You know, people were blaming video games and music that the children were listening to. But interestingly, if the person who did the school shooting is from a minority, it's never mentioned. There's another reason for that. But if the child is American or white American, it's the video games. Okay? So you've got to be careful with this stuff because, again, what is the underlying root cause? You know, if we need to get more help for children, we need to get more help for children. It's not just as simple as go, well, that was the video games that did that. Okay? So what can we do? This is the bit that we're interested in today. So now we've got a little bit more information on the realities of this. So talk without fear. I do this a lot in my job. I might have even had conversations with people in this room, but not as a parent. So that's a different task because you have a different relationship with your kids. But I can tell you things that do generally work, and that is being honest, not getting bogged down into sort of the semantics of it. If a child has seen something, and especially the ages that we're talking here, seen something or accessed something, that is not their fault, okay? So we need to have a discussion about it, and the big thing that I always say is, does it make you feel uncomfortable? Does it make you feel that you don't want to see that? Does it make you feel a certain way? And if it does, then it's wrong, okay? That could be anything. You know, we had a big thing, going back to moral panic, was it Huggy Wuggy? Was that a thing? Yeah, that was a thing. Everybody would say, oh my gosh, Huggy Wuggy's gonna be this huge thing. Nothing ever came of it. No one ever mentioned it again. But at the same time, children who are accessing that, were being punished as well, which they shouldn't have been, because they were hearing this thing, they were going, oh my gosh, what is it? And then now they might not speak to their parents or their teachers about what they see online. So it's about creating a culture of trust. We can't 100% control what children see. You can't control what children see. So it's about that honesty and making sure that you have discussions about, you know, did you see anything that made you feel uncomfortable? Is there anything that I can do to support? Set boundaries and be consistent. So this is what we were talking about before. I was reading this in The Guardian. So this lovely lady, I'm sure, from Cardiff, found her son going downstairs to play Minecraft in the middle of the night, and said, fortunately, I heard him going downstairs and managed to get him back to bed and have since confiscated the consoles for a week. We're going to limit the amount of TV time in the week and consoles for a limited time on weekends. I hope we can keep that up for a while. And I thought, well, you're not going to, are you? Because it's not the best way of starting. Okay, so whatever you decide, you know, we can't be in your house. We can't be the person who manages this. So what works for you? Like I've just said, screen time, it's more about what they do on screen. So there's a few questions that we're going to get into in a minute about how they're used in school and all the rest of this. But if you are going to stick to that 2 hours, which is the only guideline that we've got, stick to it. But if you're not, and you've got a different plan, or they're allowed to have time at weekends, they're not allowed time in the week, whatever it is, but it's not a bad idea to set some sort of restriction, because I think quite often what we observe as addiction is quite often the best thing to do. Do you know what I mean? So they've got Minecraft. We didn't have Minecraft growing up. We had like Lego. So if you give a child Minecraft or Lego, I think you probably go for the Minecraft. So about limiting it to make sure that they're exposed to other things that they can access. Okay, and the big thing, which you've done today, and thank you for coming, is to educate yourself. So this is National Online Safety. You will have had a link in the past, but with you signing up to this email, we're going to do another run where we get it out to all the parents, but you're going to be the first ones for this academic year, okay? So you'll get that today. In that, you just sign up, and these, I'll be very honest with you, as I have been the whole thing. So these courses, the questions at the end, you should pass, okay? So don't give yourselves a round of applause for passing, okay? Spend the time watching the content, because actually, for whatever reason, the content is better than the questions, okay? So if there's something, so this is Miley in class, who's a very strange celebrity to do this, but anyway, as you go through, you will see the different chapters. So if there's something that you're not sure of, spend the time. They're like 3-minute videos, just watching what they've got to say about it. And then at the end, you've got the tests as well. On here as well, just like before with the Among Us picture, they are constantly updating. And when I say constantly, you know, Shelley was just telling me, Shelley at the back there was just telling me about a new app that they'd released some information on. They are on the ball. This is a national company in the UK. If there's anything that we need to be aware of or concerned about, they will upload information so that we're all informed. And we've taken to putting up posters on the corridor before secondary. Don't tell people this, but because, so of the latest apps, so that they know that we know, and that's half the battle. So they know that we know what they're accessing or what they could be accessing, and we're presenting them with the dangers, but also we are aware of it. Any questions about National Online Safety?
Is that a subscription service?
We pay, yeah, the school pays for it. We are, probably important to say, we're a National Online Safety accredited school for the past 2 years, which is a huge accomplishment. So it means that a certain amount of parents have passed the tests. It means, or accessed content as well. It means that all of our staff have got relevant qualifications, so not just everybody does one qualification. For example, I'm the safeguarding lead, so I've got that qualification. Mr. Ellison's got the computing teacher and computing lead qualifications. PE have got their own. So lots and lots of different things. So it means that we are fully covered in this, as much as you can be. Any other questions about this? I mean, it's a very simple format, and basically what I do, I never bother going through. There's like courses, webinars. Some of them kind of step on each other's toes, I think. So if there's anything I want to know, I just search for the name of the app or the concern that I might have in the search bar, and it'll come out with any content that I need underneath. Okay, so questions. Okay, these are some of your questions, but as I don't think everybody who did this is here, shall I take some questions from you guys? Is that easier? So you get your voices heard. Yeah, go ahead. Anybody got any questions? Because also I don't want to tread on something that I've already spoken about. Yeah?
Actually, this is not a question, but a kind request, I
Yeah.
would say. We set the boundaries for our kids at home.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's a golden hours at school.
Yeah.
And when we get the iPad for school, he has also another iPad. And we said, okay, this is for your games, but this iPad for just school.
Okay.
There's no gaming, no application button, no Google, anything.
Yeah.
This is just for your education. And then a few weeks later, by the way, we are here for 5 months.
Okay.
So he said, but Mama, there is golden hours, and when we finish work, our teachers get in some time, and all of our kids playing Roblox. So I'm just with them. So I told a few parents, and I realized that all the iPads full of games.
Right.
So I just, what I can do, we download the Roblox.
Okay.
So now he just doing the work in the lesson class.
Yeah.
Without any concern, very bad writing, no conscience, because he's just doing the thing and wanna have a golden hours.
Okay. So this.
And just make the golden hour time more.
I'll speak to you after so I can get specifics on this one, okay? And I'll deal with that with you, okay? So yeah, because that's not going to be the case across the whole school. It could be, especially different age groups, for example.
It is 3, but
Yeah.
you have 2.
Yeah.
4, 5 years.
And I mean, the other thing is not all of this. You've got 50% of parents who don't have a problem with that, and then 50% who do. So we need to think of.
In the lessons,
Yeah.
I think the school shouldn't let them play the game.
In lessons, they don't. Okay, in lessons, they do not.
What is golden hours?
So golden hours is something that some teachers do on a Friday if the children have completed all of their work just after.
It's not about Friday, because I'm hearing this for different. Not it's all about their own teacher, like Arabic teacher. When they finish something, the Arabic teacher is also let her play games.
Okay, so that I need to look into, because no, that can't. So that stops.
And why I'm saying this? These things makes us difficult to control.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, I try to control,
Yeah.
and he says, you know what, I play.
Yeah.
And in the Roblox, there's tons of games in it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Roblox is very popular at the moment. The yeah.
Just to confirm and check now with they told me, for example, we have only Friday and it's never in Arabic.
Okay.
So maybe
This is what I mean. It's not a one size fits all. So I'll speak to you specifically about that. Okay.
just check with my son.
Yeah.
And the one you have, only
Yeah. Generally, it's then.
Actually, I confirm.
Yeah, that's fine.
Arabic and Islamic, they are having the iPad all the time.
Right.
They are playing on the iPad. And just to add on it, I feel that their level in Arabic and Islamic is.
Because of that. Right. I mean, again, I'll look into that.
I don't know.
I will look into that.
Or not, but if I compare with other maybe schools, I feel that they are behind.
Right. I will look into that. Okay. Any questions?
May I share a point of view? It's often compare internet and video games with the fast food. Some of parents trying to feed their children with broccoli, which is healthy, but not completely not tasty. But we all knew that broccoli and some vegetables, they are good for our health. And what happens? Children grow up, and then they realize that in the world is McDonald's, is buns with the lots of sugar, with the tons of sugar, is Coca-Cola, and something like this. They are not ready for this because this taste is especially made to be strong. Addictive, actually. Yes, and they are heated by this taste, and they cannot manage with this. They are addicted to this taste because they don't have it at home. They don't have a habit to manage with this.
Yeah.
With this strong taste. That is why they may become addicted to this for some time, maybe for some time, maybe stronger. And there is a point of view about this fact. Have everything in your menu. Have some fast food. Have some taste.
Because I just want to say only one thing. I put my borders, but I don't know how many minutes hours is playing games at school.
Yes, and that is why I'm talking about.
With different things.
Yes,
but
why?
I would like to know and see the minutes, hours, what we are talking about.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he's doing here.
I think it's a separate point, to be honest. I think they're two separate points. I think it's a very valid point.
And when the children have experience of eating fast food or watching videos on the internet, they have a habit, they have inner motivation to stay healthy. They have inner motivation not to eat fast food a lot, not to watch video a lot, because they want to do something else, to watch something else. And this may help him.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're saying. None of this is bad. It's how it's managed. Yeah.
I just wanted to disagree with this point because I have two children. One is 15,
Okay.
one is going to be 10. Actually, 15 is going to be 16 next month. So, speaking about inner motivation and games and fast food, trust me that inner motivation came to him at the age of 15.
Yeah.
Okay, so before that, there was no motivation to say exercise or game less or be conscious about it. So let's not hope that year 3 child will have an inner motivation not to play Roblox.
I don't think that's what she was saying. I think they're different points. But yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Just one thing I wanted to understand. I know early years, like year 1, year
Yeah.
2, they don't have their own tabs
Yeah.
in year 1,
Yeah.
but they use tabs for their projects,
Correct.
math and
Yeah.
maths and things
Yeah.
like that, which is perfect.
Yeah.
But is there any way you safeguard to block things that they can't access, like YouTube or?
Absolutely. We have blocks on everything, but it's not foolproof. Okay. So this is I was having a discussion before the talk about this. Their children, have searched for emojis before. Okay. Not anything bad. I think one was a pair of lips. Next thing, they're literally bombarded. Okay. We can't block everything and all. No, but yes. So to answer your question, yes, as much as you can. But it's you also have to be careful, and actually UK best practice is that you don't over-sanitize your internet, because if you do, then exactly what you were saying, you have children who don't know how to access the internet properly. They become 12, 13, log on and go, my goodness me, this is a horrible world that I'm not prepared for.
Recently, I've heard my son saying that when they have the iPads and they're done with their things, it's not the teacher who's saying it because the teachers may be busy doing something, and then some people are sneaking and opening the YouTube.
There's only a couple of tablets per mental health, and
My son does not.
no, I'm not saying that. Okay, everybody seems to be thinking we're talking about everybody else here. We're not. Okay, this is a step out. Okay, so we've got somebody is struggling with something and they don't know where to turn to, and they are looking for proper advice. Okay, Now, we all know as adults it's not the perfect place, but it's better than nothing, okay? And so they can reach out. There are communities out there that can help, that can have positive impacts. Online.
But for that, they need to be able to filter what is the
Yeah, which they can't do if you have an over-sanitized, this is it.
so many people there
Yeah.
to give that advice, and everybody is saying that I'm a life coach. I can also be a life coach.
But again, I'm not saying on a forum or anything, I'm saying that if we teach children where to research and where to get the proper knowledge from.
I think there is this counselor in school,
Yeah.
right? That's where it has to be the first point of
Oh, exactly. I'm not talking about in this school, I'm talking about situations that, especially in the UK, came across. That
it's a little more extreme, like friendly environment.
I said generalization, okay?
It's recorded.
Yeah, it's recorded.
You know what? Like all the little kids nowadays are very fond of TikTok.
Yeah.
Especially girls. They're making these videos. Like my daughter goes to her friend's house, and then I go through her photos in the phone, and it's like a lot of different dances.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why can't you? I don't. So essentially, she told her to go jump off the balcony and film it.
But again, this is where anything we let our kids on, we need to do the research first, because there are things you can do where, you know, even my Instagram as an adult, I've literally got family. I've literally stripped it right back. And so, you know, nothing can happen on mine, right? Because, or if they did, I'd say, you know, Steph, why is your brother messaging me this? This is a bit mean. You know, so you've got to do the research and the due diligence before children have access.
TikTok and Snapchat, and actually on Facebook, I deleted my Facebook
Yeah.
like a year ago. But and I'm like, because your mom allows, and I'm like, I'm the mom who does not allow
Yeah,
Snapchat, so what
that's
do you
fine.
want to do? But I want to talk to that girl only on Snapchat. You know?
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Oh, I thought you were leaving.
This question because it just keeps flooding, and
Yeah.
keep blocking and blocking.
You have to, so National Online Safety, again, if you see of any of these apps, you go on, it will tell you exactly step by step what to do to monitor, to give your child that opportunity if you choose to give it to them. Yeah.
I think it's everyone's concern here, and that's the only reason that I canceled my work and I
Yeah.
came here. So just a kind request. I know it's inevitable to use YouTube or a couple of stuff
Yeah.
here, and in whatever age. My son is in year 2,
Yeah.
not still in year 3 to bring the iPad, but
Yeah.
still I can also confirm that most of the time in Arabic classes, they share things, they hear Roblox, they hear the Huggy Wuggy stuff
Okay.
that they make us work hard, believe me, for a quarter.
Training or anything like that. It is the fact that, because it changes all the time, it's the fact they've got access to that. So now you've got access to it too. And thank you very much for taking your time this morning. Thank you.